and so today we are going to be speaking about the Enfield Haunting. It's one of the most recorded cases of poltergeist activity in history. This occurred at 284 Green Street in a 3-bedroom council house over 18-month period. So the mother was Peggy Hodgson. She was 47 years old and she had 4 children living with her. She was a single mother. Now the oldest child was called Margaret. She was 13 years old. Janet was the next in line. She was 12. John was 11 and Billy was 7. So Margaret was more of a serious and reserved child and Janet was more of the lively, outgoing child. John was only home in school holidays as he actually went to a boarding school, and Billy suffered severe speech impediments. So the next door neighbours at 282 Green Street were very supportive throughout this whole ordeal. The man of the house was a builder who was called Vic Nottingham, and he had his wife Peggy living with him and their 20-year-old son Gary. So on the 31st of August in 1977 at 9:30 p.m, Janet and John shared a bedroom and they heard shuffling in there. So their mother Peggy came to see what the fuss was about as the children were distressed. And when she entered, she heard what was described as knocking sounds. So she tried to investigate where the knocking sounds were coming from inside the room, and a chest of drawers moved 18 inches across the bedroom by itself. Peggy was freaked out and immediately requested help from the next door neighbours. So Gary and Vic entered the house and heard the knocking noises as well. So they explored the house and tried to find where the noises were coming from. However, they couldn't actually find any source of the noise, but they did say that it tended to follow them around the home. So Peggy Nottingham, who was Vic's wife and the next door neighbour, she called the police to investigate. The police arrived and one officer said that she witnessed a chair wobble and then move across the room. She said it slid across the floor without leaving the ground, and she inspected the chair and found no reason for it to have done so. So over the next few days, Lego and marbles flew around the house. This was witnessed by the family and the next door neighbours. And the house was also visited by council officials and clergymen. However, this didn't deter the phenomena from continuing to wreak havoc on the house. So on September 4th, Mrs. Nottingham, she phoned the Daily Mirror. She contacted them in the hope that the story would reach somebody who could actually help out the family. So reporter Douglas Spence and photographer Graham Morris visited. The photographer Morris, he got hit in the head with a Lego brick, and he said it hit him with such force that the bruise was still visible for some days after the incident. On the 5th of September, a Mirror reporter came out called George Fallows, and a photographer also came out named David Thorpe. Once they witnessed what was happening, the reporter Fallows contacted the Society for Psychical Research. The case was given to Maurice Gross to investigate. He visited the house on the 8th of September, and he visited with 3 Mirror reporters as well. He advised Peggy to take notes of all incidents that took place in the house, and he and the 3 reporters that accompanied him witnessed a loud crash. So this actually convinced Gross that the claims of a poltergeist were real, and then he decided to take on the case. During subsequent visits, Gross witnessed marbles flying through the air and landing without rolling, doors and drawers opening on their own, door chimes that swung from side to side on many occasions, teaspoons, fish tank lids and a cardboard box jumped on their own without explanation, and these events were all witnessed by as many as 10 people. So Gross requested assistance from another investigator called Gary Playfair. So he arrived on September 12th, and he worked with Gross for over a year on the case. So they both made a total of 180 visits and 25 all-night vigils to the house. The tape recordings that Playfair and Gross recorded totaled 180 hours, and many different incidents occurred. They interviewed different people claiming to have seen supernatural things coming from the house. A lollipop lady said that she saw Janet being bounced up and down from the window as if being held by her legs and back. Originally, she thought a mattress was underneath the window and that was how Janet was bouncing. However, she soon realised that a mattress wouldn't be that bouncy. A reporter for the Daily Mirror said that this could only be faked by an expert from their experience and from what they'd witnessed. So marbles and Legos travelled at speed through the air from doors and windows. A teapot shook vigorously with absence of external vibration. A metal spoon and metal teapot lid bent on their own. The shade of the bedside lamp tilted and straightened by itself. The toilet door opened and closed when no one was nearby. Cardboard boxes and cushions were thrown by an unknown force, as well as a slipper, across the room. A framed certificate was pulled off the wall, and this was witnessed by Gross on his own in the room. The bedroom carpet was pulled up at the edge to form an identical shape each time. They put it back and it would do the same. Gross tried to replicate this, however he couldn't, not through lack of trying. The settee or couch levitated and overturned in front of several witnesses. Janet levitated on 3 separate occasions before being dropped in 3 separate places each time. The kitchen unit doors opened on their own. Footsteps were heard when no one else was present, or when everybody present was in the same room. Margaret was restrained by an unknown force. Knocks, bangs and crashes were heard, but they were not caused by plumbing or vibrations or any other external sources when investigated. Coins disappeared from one room and reappeared in another. Small fires began starting and extinguished themselves without causing any damage to the house. Water appeared without any reason and the pipes were checked. Reliable electric equipment such as cameras and tape recorders stopped working without any possible reason. Partial and total apparitions were seen. An iron frame of built-in fireplace was wrenched from the wall. Written messages started to appear, and abusive remarks and swear words in a gruff masculine voice began to emit from Janet. They also began to emit from Margaret at one point, but they weren't as long and they weren't as aggressive. So in December of 1977, the voice began from Janet and started as whistles and dog barks in the beginning. Then it suddenly developed into an elderly male's voice, and he identified himself as Bill Wilkins. Bill said he went blind, he suffered a hemorrhage, fell asleep and died in the chair in the corner of the living room downstairs. It was found after extensive research that the previous owner was actually called Mr. Wilkins. However, Janet seemed unaware of this, and in 1996, the son of Bill Wilkins named Terry Wilkins actually did confirm the details that Janet had provided. To eliminate possibility that Janet was faking the voice herself, Gross taped up her mouth, but the voice continued, however it was subdued. They also continued with a second experiment where they made Janet hold water in her mouth, and the same thing happened. After many hours of recording, they decided to put a contact microphone on the back of Janet's head. They also sought out the advice of a speech therapist, and she listened to the recording and was unsure of where the voice was coming from, as it was louder and different to Janet's own voice. Then a ventriloquist was contacted to see if that was possible. So Ray Allen, the ventriloquist, said that he also could not identify the voice, but it may have been possible that it was coming from Janet's. Gross dismissed this, and he offered a £1,000 to charity if a child could replicate the voice. However, nobody ever came forward. A local psychiatrist examined both Janet and Margaret and said that if they were left alone, then the phenomena would cease to exist. However, this didn't happen, and the phenomena actually continued despite reporters giving them their privacy. Janet was given a detailed physical and psychological examination and assessment by Dr. Peter Fenwick. However, he found no abnormalities such as damage to the brain or epilepsy. So then Janet underwent some hypnosis, which similarly found no evidence of psychological frailty. So Playfair found similarities with the dog barks and the whistling that Janet was emitting. They found similarities with Tourette's syndrome. So he called out doctors to examine Janet. However, the doctors actually never diagnosed Tourette's, but did give Janet some meds to calm her down. 3 mediums were called out to the property, and after they left, incidents would calm for weeks at a time. However, they would always return. Gross and Playfair said that it was obvious that the girls had tried to trick them over the course of their investigation on more than one occasion. However, they did say that the girls admitted when questioned when they were being deceitful, and they said that the tricks were fairly obvious. Also, they were always physical, such as bending spoons and metal objects. Janet said that she only made up 2% of incidents when interviewed when she was younger, and she still maintains this to this day. She is currently 45 and she maintains that all these things did happen and that she only made up 2% of incidents with her sister Margaret. So that's it from me today, guys. Do you think it's a hoax? Do you think it was real? I will also link some recordings in the description below showing the voice that Janet emitted, which she claims was Bill Wilkins. The recordings are available, so I will link that down below. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye.